Hello and welcome to the Walk Around podcast powered by JM&A Group. If you are in the automotive business, this is the place for you. I am one of your co-hosts, Mark Spoto, joined by one of our new guest co-hosts, Heather Wilkinson. Welcome, Heather.
Good afternoon,
How are you
thank
doing?
you, Mark.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, why you're here.
I am very excited to be here. I am the Assistant Vice President of Consulting Solutions for JM&A Group, so I oversee our training, consulting for the variable and fixed operations in dealerships throughout the country.
Awesome. And you were sharing with me that you were really looking forward to this, right?
So, I have to share, Mark.
Please.
I've been giving this a lot of thought in prepping for this.
Okay.
And we're familiar with the show Live with Kelly, right?
Of course.
Kelly Ripa.
It's one of my favorites.
Prior to Kelly finding Mark Consuelos as her latest host,
she had a pretty easy search.
Exactly. Well, she tried out a lot of different people.
True.
And I was envisioning how you're Kelly.
I'm Kelly.
You're Kelly.
Okay.
Right? And I'm your guest host trying out the seat. So I'm Ryan Seacrest. I'm Michael Strahan. And then I'm Mark Consuelos. And I am here today to become your Mark Consuelos.
I love that. You're not proposing, are you?
No.
Okay, so today...
I know you're taken, so...
Today, we have a really great pair of guests. I think this is the first time we've had two guests on the show.
And they're pretty exciting.
We've got Liza Borches, who is CEO and president of Carter Myers Automotive, and we have Danelle Delgado, who is founder of TeamEngage, a leadership and development training company. You know, it's interesting. They have partnered together to really engage women in automotive, and we had such a meaningful conversation with them around the importance of accountability, community, and leadership training.
Absolutely. And the importance of developing talent within the automotive industry. And it's not about so much female talent, but we need development on the male side, the female side, and we need to make sure we have allies when we're developing females in the automotive industry.
That is so true. So many great lessons and insights from these two. I hope you enjoy the walk around with Danelle and Liza. Well, we are very excited to have Liza Borches and Danelle Delgado with us on the walk around. Liza, Danelle, thank you so much for joining us today.
We are so excited to be here. Always appreciate having some time to chat with you guys.
Absolutely. We find great people and like to find ways to hang out. So thanks for doing a podcast.
Awesome. So when Heather and I started to talk about what do we want to discuss today, you know, the topic of inclusion, diversity, you know, attracting, retaining, growing talent in the business came up. And there could not be two better people to discuss that with. Would you agree, Heather?
Absolutely, Mark. Wholeheartedly. I like to coin a term you used now, good humans. And I feel like we're having an opportunity today to have a group of good humans, females and males, that can get together and talk about the importance of really attracting, retaining, and growing women in the retail automotive industry. And I would say, you know, all three of us in our businesses, we share a common goal, that it's very important to help women continue to grow and come up and move into leadership roles in the retail automotive space. So, you know, Liza, I'd like to kind of start off with you and just, if you could share the history of Carter Myers Automotive Group and the female influence that started in the very early days for your family and your dealership operations.
I would love to share that story. And I'll start by saying, I'm glad that it's men and women on this podcast, because you talk about the importance of attracting first, then retaining and developing women. Men are equally as important in that equation. Men are better when there are strong women also in the industry. Women are better when there are strong men in the industry. So with all that being said, our company was started 100 years ago by my great-grandfather back in 1924. But the history shows, as we've been studying, we're right now having our 100-year anniversary. So we've been really understanding the stories and what got us here. How did we stay in business for 100 years, and what's going to drive us in the future? And one of the most unique stories that we've learned throughout time is that back in the 1920s, I had a great aunt who, in fact, I never count it right. I don't know if she's my great aunt or great aunt. She was several generations before me. Her name was Elizabeth Myers, which was actually my name before I got married. And she went up to New York City as she was in her early 20s, in the 1920s, to sell life insurance for Northwestern Mutual Life Insurance. And the story goes that she could knock on any executive's door in New York City and get an appointment. And when the country was going through the Depression and the First World War, she was the only family member of the Myers family who had enough cash to keep our company afloat. Wow. So at one point, she owned 75% of Carter Myers Automotive. We had two other women. One was my great-grandmother, and one was another female in Petersburg who we think had some family money. We're not really sure of her story. We were 100% female-owned in the early 1930s. We believe
amazing.
First female-owned dealership in the country. But back then, we didn't let Henry Ford know that because he didn't have a place for women in this industry, and we probably would have lost our franchise agreement.
So how did you get around that? How did Henry Ford not find out?
Well, thankfully, back then, they didn't have great technology. And you just
no email.
No email.
No way for them to check.
No podcast.
No social media.
Podcast. They just filled my great-grandfather's name in on the agreements, but in all of our corporate records, and we have to be able to obviously see where the money flowed, and it was 100% female-owned back then.
Wow.
I would say the first female-owned automobile dealerships in the retail automotive industry, it sounds like.
Yeah. And I'll tell one other really quick story. My great aunt didn't have any involvement in the running of the company. Mm-hmm. But when we go back and we found letters that she wrote my great-grandfather from New York City, and then my grandfather once he ran the company. And one of her most important issues that she wrote in these letters was to tell my ancestors to get on board with the civil rights movement. And she actually was the first one to speak about diversity in our company back in the 30s and the 40s. This wasn't even in the discussion back then. And so we found these letters that she wrote my grandfather, and he responded back. And it's been a fascinating part of the study that we've had of our company.
That's amazing. So, Danelle, let's fast forward now about 100 years. And how did you get involved with Liza? Tell us a little bit about your involvement and what you guys just started to connect on immediately.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was interesting. I was invited to speak at an automotive event, and I didn't really know why, other than it's the same lessons that all CEOs, business owners really need. And that's what I taught. So I was invited to speak at an industry event full of people that I had no idea about, an industry that I had no idea about. I was more like Elizabeth Myers. I was in insurance and business owners and other fields. And so I spoke at this event. And as soon as I will tell you, the energy was electric. The belief, their engagement, I was like, who are these people? They're amazing, right? It was kind of that first experience with people who didn't give me a hard time for working hard. It was almost like these were humans who understood me and were cheering it on, that I had passion and work ethic, and nobody really second judged that. They actually loved and adored me. And I was like, I like these people, whoever they are. What do we do here? Cars? And at the end, I walked off to the backstage, and the gentleman was taking off my microphone, and I see this woman on a mission walking towards me with like this intent. And I told the guy, I go, well, she either loved me or hated me. We'll find out in just a second, right?
Was there security nearby just in case?
Yeah. And it was
I bet she was moving fast.
It was Liza on a mission, and she was so clear in how she spoke to me and so powerful, and was like, what that was? I need some of that. And I was like, I'm pretty sure you've made hundreds of millions more than me. I'm not sure what I'm going to do for you. But it was this conversation, and she said, could we explore this? And the moment I had one conversation with her, she was always on this mission of help me be better so I can help more people. And then how can we help my people? And she is the fastest person to say, if there is a missing link or something we could do better as a team for our people, I'm in. Show me what you've got. Introduce me to just a hunger for impacting lives. And that spoke to who I was. So I started saying yes to her, whatever she asked. And I didn't even really handle it like any other business that I had done. I just knew I needed to be connected with her. How we loved people and progress was very similar. And it led to me working with her, us building an even bigger brand for her and everything she was doing and the mission Carter Myers was on. And then it led to training their executives and then all of their employees. It grew every area of me as well as their team, and I love and adore them. And they were kind of this intro into automotive, a world that I never knew I would fall deeply in love with and love to be a part of. So I'm so grateful for that woman on a mission. Hi.
That is an incredible story, and I think along this journey, from my understanding, this is where you two both identified your passion around developing females in the retail automotive space. Liza, why is this so important to you? Why is it important that the automotive industry invest in future dealers, general managers, department heads that are female throughout the automotive industry?
Well, Heather, I think most people know the obvious answers, right? We all know that when you have diversity of thought, diversity of backgrounds and experiences, a company and an industry is stronger. We need all ages, all races, all genders, all ethnicities, all backgrounds coming together because this industry is constantly evolving, right? And we have a lot of adversity, positive adversity, things that we've got to learn from and be able to move towards. And we need the best minds in the business, or the best minds even outside of our business, in our business. And when we look around at this industry, and I think the NADA stat is like 22% of dealership employees are female. Mm-hmm. When you get up to the general manager level, it's less than 10%. You get to the owner and dealer level, it's less than 5%. And when we look at those numbers, we know that we are not as good as we could be because we don't have all the voices at the table. So that's certainly the easy answer. The other piece is, and I think if you talk to any leader in automotive, you'll say, or probably in any industry right now, they're going to say staffing is challenging, right? We are always looking for the best leaders. We need strong associates in every level of our company. Mm-hmm. And when you think about the fact that less than 25% of our associates are female, we are leaving half the country out of understanding the opportunity to be a part of our industry. So there's just so many obvious reasons why this is important. Mm-hmm.
And I think I would add to that, Liza, turnover is expensive. Would you agree? So why not try to develop your people for the long term? It's just good business.
There's no question. And we in fact, just this morning at a meeting here at CMA, we were digging into our turnover for the first half of the year and talking about the expense of every time we lose someone or don't hire right. But we've got to make sure that we have a big circle around all of the potential leaders and superstars that could be a part of our industry, and women have got to be a part of that equation.
I think it's interesting. I was reading about development for CMA and TeamEngage, Danelle, your company. And one of your drivers or philosophies is that in the automotive industry, we do a great job training and developing on process. We train sales process, we train service process, but we don't do a great job of developing leadership skills and talent. What does engage women in automotive, what is that going to do for females in the automotive industry?
Yeah, I always kind of track this back. I think one of the greatest tools that Liza helped me bring to automotive is I wasn't automotive. I was industry neutral. And I was training in all of these spaces, and I saw brilliance in all of these places. And I saw that the same principles helped every single industry. So, Liza was very encouraging, always saying, Danelle, this is what you're doing for our industry. This is what you're doing for our company. Can you bring this to more humans? And so TeamEngage is really focused on developing the mind, the foundation, and the core of a human, right? So if we get a human thinking more confidently, they build more competence. They build more competence, they become more of an asset to their teams. They become more of an asset. More people want to do life and business with them. And so if you see the breakdown of employees or turnover or men versus women, or these discussions pop up, all that means is there are humans with weak foundations who don't understand how to communicate, who are more offended than more progress focused, right? So if we can develop the minds of our team to be powerful, to be open to conversations and change and how we could do things better, you start to get teams playing together. And so that's one thing as a whole, men and women across the board. I think as I've been a woman in every industry, that is rare. Like most of the time I'm on stages with all men in every industry that I'm in. And a lot of people called that to the floor. And I said, I am not like pro woman or like fight for I am pro competence, confidence, and teaming. Does that make sense?
I love that.
Yeah.
And I think so many women feel behind the eight ball a little bit, that they feel like they have to stand taller, be more fierce, or be something that they're not right now to own their spot. And I'm like, no, what you need to be is you in full force, right? And if we can help them stand on their own 2 feet, they will be able to stand in their power in front of men or women. They will be able to accept, learn from both, and not fight for something in the wrong manner. I think a lot of people work to prove somebody wrong, and I don't want that on my teams. I want people to work to prove themselves correct and worthy. And so working with the women, I want them to own their place, to love and admire and learn from both, right? But I also know that just like Elizabeth Myers, I can get into certain places from how I handle humans, from my kindness, my generosity, and also my strength that certain other people can. I can bring things to the floor. Many of my VIP clients in the automotive space, not many, let me actually correct that, 100% are men in the VIP space, because they're learning how to learn from me and how they can affect their female employees as well. So it's a win-win for both. Does that make sense? But I'm like, imagine if we had this group of women so confident in themselves, so foundationally sound, so skilled, so they're focused on building their skill set as opposed to their placement, that we actually have a powerful movement of women working together with everyone. Well, there's going to be more places, then there's no more offense. Does that make sense? There's teaming.
It does. And it's interesting because as a female in the automotive industry, we tend to want to fit in. We tend to want to have our seat at the table and just be one of the guys. But there's strength in who we are and the diversity that we bring. And what I'm hearing you say, Danelle, this program is designed to capitalize off what you bring to the table, show what you bring to the table, have that confidence, and don't hide it. And in the retail automotive industry, and probably in any industry, have you come across women that have the knowledge and the expertise, but they stand behind the male counterparts? What causes women not to speak up, Liza, that you've seen in the automotive industry?
You hit on something about trying to fit in, and we have some wonderful female leaders in this industry. And one of the things that I always share with them, because I usually hear one of two things: either the woman's trying to fit in and just kind of be a part of the male industry that we are, or I hear sometimes a victim mentality of I'm the only woman and this and that. And I don't blame them. They are typically the only woman in a lot of their teams. But what I always encourage them to do, while we are still so male dominated, is to actually take advantage of the fact that you're the only female. I think it's absolutely wonderful when I walk in a room a lot of times, like I'll use a dealer advisory board meeting or some sort of council that I've been invited to. And I think in the beginning, I might have been invited just because they wanted a female voice on it. And then I had to prove myself to keep that seat at the table. But I always tell women, use it to your advantage. You stand out when you're the only female. And they invited you there, or you were there because they need to hear your voice. You have a different perspective. You come from different experiences. Even if you lived the same life as the man next to you, you have lived it differently as a female. And that's what Danelle and I want to bring out in this training. We want women to be confident, to know that the superpowers that they bring to our industry are important. And it's important that they might be very different than what men bring. And together we are a stronger team.
I love that idea of just, embracing your authentic self and being who you are rather than trying to emulate or fit in necessarily with someone else. On that note, Liza, we recently had on Mary Rice on the podcast, and, she's the dealer principal at Toyota of Greensboro. And we asked her, from her perspective, what advice do you have for women getting into the automotive career? And her number one thing is find a mentor. I'm curious what you guys' perspective is on that. Do you think that's something important as someone is growing in the career, first getting into it? How important is a mentor? And can that mentor be man or woman based on, the environment that they're in?
Well, I'll start, and then Danelle, why don't you chime in on the same question? Obviously, I think in any industry, having a mentor is important, and there's a lot of different types of mentors, and Danelle would, I think, be better to speak to that than I will. Yes, getting a mentor is important. It absolutely can be a male or a female. In fact, in our industry, most likely it will be a male, which is actually great. You're going to be learning from someone who has a different skill set and different experiences than you do. But the other thing that I would encourage someone entering this industry is to find a company who cares about training and development. It's not an area that's super strong in automotive. And one of the reasons that we have so much turnover, what you mentioned earlier, is because people join this industry, get into a dealership, they're thrown in front of a computer to learn product knowledge, and then either put out on the floor or in the service drive, and then they're not really trained, coached, and developed on anything outside of how to actually sell or service a car. So I would encourage, yes, find a mentor, but find a company that is going to invest in you beyond just the process training.
Yeah. I get this question all of the time, right? So at what point do you stop having mentorship, right? People ask me all the time, oh, Danelle, you're a mentor. I go, I will forever pay a mentor, because there's always someone to chase, and there's always a different balcony to see life from. And I think sometimes we have so many focused goals that we have blinders on, as opposed to windows. Does that make sense? And mentors are windows into not what's possible, but what is absolute, right? What is there for you? And I think people would act differently in their current platforms if they knew where they were headed instead of operated on a maybe. And when we work on our own, we operate off of maybes. When we work off mentorship, we work off of absolutes. And so that changes how they take every step, how they offer every word, because they're either moving on a mission or they're moving off hope, which is scary, and they're timid and they dabble and then they make mistakes. And so imagine if everyone in your team had one-on-one mentorship, which is what Liza and I developed. How do you have a virtual mentor that will say what is needed, provide a community for you to where you go, oh, I'm not crazy? Because sometimes we just think we're crazy because we have no one who's working on progress to talk to about it. So we have accountability and community, right? Those three things are what Liza's really great at making sure her team has: mentorship, community, and accountability. Because if you have those three things, you don't make moves based on inaccurate information or feelings. You make them based on facts. And that's what mentorship is all about. I just always knew if I could find one more person who's doing this idea, oh, that's a fact, not a feeling, I'll move towards that, right? It's when we get all in our emotions that we lash out at people, we hurt feelings, we do dumb things, right? When instead you're like, oh no, I'm moving on a mission. It becomes a thing you attract people to, as opposed to like just winging a prayer out there, hoping things go well. And that's, we want people to be the reason people make less mistakes. And that's mentorship.
Yeah.
Those are some key takeaways. Mentorship, community, and accountability. That's for male or female,
absolutely,
regardless.
Yeah.
And Heather, Danelle has been one of my greatest mentors. When you look at where our company was in 2018, but right before I met her, to where we are today, when she says a mentor can take your blinders off, that is what she did for me. Every year we get together and spend 2 days with her asking me questions to get my blinders off, because we get so focused on our goals and our tasks and what we have to get done today that I take those 2 days a year with her. She makes me go away from the business and she just pounds me with questions until she can get to the root of what I truly want to accomplish and the vision that I have for that year and a couple years. And it's the most valuable 2 days that I take every year and invest in myself because of the push she has given me.
So I'm curious, you guys have been at this, working together on it for a while. You've developed this program. What changes have you seen in your organization, Liza? And what kind of things can you share with other dealers who are maybe considering more leadership development or more training? What kinds of takeaways have you had thus far?
Well, there are so many takeaways, but I'm going to just share two. The first big takeaway since we started working together was Danelle helped me personally have great clarity about the mission of our business, the purpose behind what we do. I knew it in my heart. I lived it. It got me up excited every day, but I couldn't verbalize it. I couldn't communicate it in a way that also inspired our team. So that was the first big thing that we did when we started working together, moving lives forward. That's who CMA is. It's what we do, associates, customers, community. And she got that out by asking me a lot of questions. So the first thing we did was we created community within our company. I always say we aren't building a company, we're building a community here at CMA, and it's all around moving lives forward. The second thing that we've seen is we have started attracting stronger candidates and the right people for our company, because they see, and we talk about developing, investing in the training we do, the coaching we offer, the mentorship. And we now see when somebody reaches out to us to join CMA, they are already somewhat of a culture fit because they want to come to a company who is going to push them to learn, to encourage them to invest in themselves. And it's a different caliber of leaders that we have grown and attracted in our company in the last 5 years versus where we were 5 years previously. Those are the two biggest changes.
Well, so if I'm hearing you correctly, but when you think about making an impact on those stats you shared, right? And if we want to grow those numbers and get more women involved in retail, more positions of leadership, it really comes down to changes that a business has to make for themselves to attract that talent. So having a clear mission, having a clear purpose of what you're trying to become in your community, and then offering training and opportunities to grow. Would you agree with that? Or is there more that businesses can do to help impact those numbers?
You want to pop that?
Absolutely. Right. I think it definitely always starts with the leader, a leader that is willing to look inside themselves about where they're winning, where they're challenged, and what's missing from their leadership, from their department, from their community, from what they're building. If a leader can answer those questions honestly with someone who is farther ahead of them in a room, there's a real depth to who they are. And once they do that, they're going to bring in the right teammates. I think every great owner needs a teammate outside of their business to give them perspective, insight, and truth. And so I think that's a large piece. But I think, if I'm focusing on what Liza and I are working to do, we all have looked at ourselves like an asset from time to time, and we've all looked at ourselves as there's something that is lacking. And as I see women, for some reason, we tend to doubt ourselves more than men. I'll give you this perspective. I've been on some of the greatest stages in the world, stadiums of 30,000 people. When the women walk off stage, they say, "Hey, how'd I do? Did you like it?" When the men walk off stage, they high five each other. They're like, "I crushed it." And
I think I would throw up. I'm walking off a stage of 30,000 people.
High five.
For about 6-7 years, I did. I was shaking and nervous. I did not think it was my calling. It was definitely something that I had to work on and train. But I remember watching that happen and noticing that. And I go, I don't know what happened there. All I know is I'd love to be that human who walked off and said, I made a dang difference today. I loved this. Who could I serve next? And I saw that their focal point was bigger than my emotions. They were like, hey, I'm here to make a difference. I know I did today, and I'll move on. And I wanted that. And so as we develop these women, I think women have this ability to live uncommon care. And so they care so much about how they affect others, the movements they're making. They really seek advice and mentorship the most. And I want to be a part of Liza's movement of taking women in the automotive space to own their talent, right? Not arrogantly or anything. I don't think anything's right or wrong. That was just my experience, right? But I think if women could love their power, love their service, build their skill set with another group of women doing it in a fiercely correct way. Like, you should see Liza walk through a room anywhere. People cannot wait to talk to her, move around her, get nervous around her. She's a powerful force, and she's about 12 pounds. And so you see her float through
You're probably just trying to catch her, right? She's quickly walking through.
So fast.
It's like an aura. And I go, if I were a woman in this industry, how she holds herself, treats herself, the influence she has with men or women because of how hard she's worked, the skill set, the care, I would want her speaking into my life. It would be a priceless amount of money to spend time with. I feel that way about how I affect my industry. And we're attracting, just by being together, we're attracting these other women who know they have it, but might need some reinforcements to live it so that they can serve men and women in their true capacity. And that's the stats that will create change, right? We have to create a community where there is no, because I've been in a couple of the women's groups, and I have to like opt out because it's a very victim mentality, and it bothers me. So
it's not helping the women either.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Instead of complaining about it, Liza and I decided to make a solution about it. Well, why? Okay, then we're just going to have to lead one. So let's show them how to do it. So no complaining, just solutions. That's what we teach. And so let's create a community that really empowers people to make a dent in this industry like we can. And I think it's truly, I love this industry, and I have no business being in it, but I found a home there that is magic. And I think about how many women like me who would love to own who they are and how they could affect others in an industry that affects every individual in the world. That's this one. And so we want them to have a home to where they can learn from each other and grow from women who will be the exception, and they also will call each other out on the things they've believed for too long about why they fit, why they don't, how hard it is, whatever. And we're like, no, absolutely not. Let's make this amazing. So we're here to be a solution. And I think men or women, who you are around, find people who are the solutions to the things people complain about, and you'll find a winning group.
Well, I think you not only belong in this industry, Danelle, you own this industry. You are one of us.
Lucky to have her.
We are lucky to have you and to learn from you. And as you both know, this is an important topic for our company as well. What could companies like ours, OEMs, suppliers, vendors, what could we be doing? What's one thing, Liza, we could be doing as an industry to better support the development of female leaders in the retail automotive space?
That's a really good question, and not one that I think we've had a clear answer to. But when we look at the number of females on the vendor side and the manufacturer side, we've made some good progress. Probably still not where you all want to be, but compared to retail, we've made a lot more progress on the OEM and vendor side. So I think one of the things that you all can do is, as you're working with a lot of other dealer groups or dealerships, if you see things that are working, sharing best practices with others of us. If you see a dealer group that's made massive inroads, what are they doing differently? What is it? Is it training and development? Is it schedules? Is it where they're recruiting? So we would love to hear you all's knowledge on what you're seeing out there that's working. You have a lot more access to dealer groups than what we get to see every day just in our own. Although on that note, I will say that one of my goals in this group is to learn from these women from all different dealer groups and have them give us input on what they see as things as an industry that we could be doing better to attract, retain, develop, and invest in more women. So I've told any other dealer owner who has supported a female joining our group that I'm going to make sure and share with them anything that we learn that could also help them as a group be stronger as far as female leaders. We want the whole industry to rise. This started as just CMA, and Danelle, when we were going over my goals for the year, it had been like 3 years in a row that I had on my goals that I wanted to first see CMA have a higher percentage of women in leadership. But I was also disappointed our industry as a whole hadn't made any progress. And she finally looked at me this year. She's like, Liza, so when are you going to take action on this? When are you ready to do something? And this is something when we talk about what you all could do, I'm going to say this and we might find a solution here. I was hesitant to do something specifically for women because I never want the men in my company or in our industry to think that I don't value them just as much as any female leader. And I also don't want there to ever be an appearance of favoritism that we're, trying to help the women more than we're helping the men. The reality is in order to make the men stronger, as I started this podcast saying, we also have to have strong women. So part of the reason we're doing this is not just to develop future female leaders, but to also create an environment where the men can be stronger as well. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that makes sense. So if you can help identify,
it totally does. And we're here to partner with you.
Women. Be a voice for us. Create awareness.
Yeah, there's so much opportunity for that.
Yeah.
Liza, I think that is just a great lesson that dealers can hear who are listening to this, to know that it's not just about focusing on one particular population. It's about growing your organization and growing your business as a whole to make it the best that you can.
Future leaders,
regardless
of the organization or the industry, and collaborating together amongst our industries, whether you're a supplier, vendor, or an OEM, is critical. Well, and we're here to partner with you.
I think we can probably talk to you guys for several more hours.
Absolutely.
We know you guys have to get going. You have busy schedules. We do want to transition into our final segment of the podcast.
Yes.
One that I'm calling Best Bets.
And I think that you've got some challenges or opportunities you're trying to overcome.
We're working through it.
Yes.
We're working through it.
The first step is admitting there's a problem.
Yes. I may like to time put some money on things that are happening in the sports world, but that's not the point.
A wager too, and I think we have some guests today who are willing to put some wagers out there.
Yes, we want to get your opinions, and we're framing it around best bets. So, Liza, this first one is for you. We all know what happened recently with CDK and the cyber attack and that outage that occurred, and obviously there are a ton of lessons learned. I personally think it's yet another example of the resiliency of this industry and dealers having to work through that situation. And it's an opportunity for vendors and everyone who participates in this transaction. But one thing that people have been talking about, and as you know, in your business, there are so many systems that are involved in facilitating a transaction for a customer. We've been going down a path of maybe there's an all-in-one solution, and there are several companies out there that are offering that. When you think about DMS and desking and service and customer experience. And then there are those that think, well, maybe we're better off segmenting those technologies and having different vendors participate in those processes. In your opinion, if you had to put a bet, are you going more toward one solution, or are we going back to a more segmented landscape of technology?
My money is on a more segmented landscape of technology, because through this process, that's what I've decided for CMA. And I actually was just clear with my team this morning. That's what this whole thing with CDK taught me. Is I don't think we need to be as reliant on our DMS as we thought we needed to be. We need to have the best solution for each part of our business and realize that people are actually the most important part. The technology is there to wrap around the relationship and create efficiencies and scale, but the technology doesn't do the job. So that's what we learned. That's where my money is.
I love it.
I love it too.
She's
All
playing
right,
on a
great
more
job.
segmented segment. All right, question number 2. I think this one's
I
for
always
Danelle.
bet on Liza too. I'm with you. Yeah.
I love it. And thank you for that
that's
input.
my best bet is Liza Borches.
We had a heavy discussion here around taking a hard right
Yes.
in our topic today.
But it worked. It worked well.
Thank you for playing with us. Question number 2, Danelle. If you had to go all in on one leadership development trait or skill, regardless, male, female, regardless of the industry, what would it be? Giving and receiving feedback, emotional intelligence, setting direction, strategic thinking, team building, or delegation?
All right, so you got to go all in on one.
One.
What are you going in on?
Do I need to repeat the choices?
No, I got you. I'm between 2.
Okay.
And I'm between 2. So let me negotiate myself here. Emotional intelligence or strategic thinking, because I believe brain training is how I overcame adversity after adversity. It's why I'm so well known, how I overcame divorce and cancer multiple times and struggling, being a single mom and my, just a lot of adversity. And I always say adversity visits the strong but stays with the weak. And so our ability to think well, which would also mean you're emotionally intelligent, solves all problems. If we could help people think, take one deep breath before they spoke, and use strategy over emotion, luck, any of those kinds of things. So I think I'll go in on strategic thinking, because that would mean you're emotionally intelligent.
Good way to do both.
Yeah. So
all right, so you're splitting the bet. You're splitting the bet on EI and strategic thinking.
Yes.
All right,
yes.
we'll take that.
I'll take it. Critical
It'll
skill
save
set.
lives. Yeah.
Okay. Liza, would you agree? Do you want to place another bet on one of
Well,
those?
I always place my bets on Danelle, and she.
We're going to
we
Vegas
couldn't have
together.
scripted this
I
any
know,
better.
right?
I mean, what she just said is what we train our company on. And when we've learned about all the different leadership traits, as she has helped us in the area of emotional intelligence, that has been huge in the auto industry. I mean, we just look around and we are emotional, passionate people. And if we can learn how to use
I
our
like how you call it passionate. Yes.
if we can use our passion as a strength, that's being emotionally intelligent. And then the strategic thinking piece, you can't be a leader if you're not thinking strategically. I do think that the two are tied together. So I'm with Danelle on that.
All right, I love that.
So to take that strategic thinking another step, let's talk about running marathons.
No.
Yeah, we did some research,
We did-
Liza. We
yes,
did some
we did
research,
some
Danelle. We know you guys are training to run the Chicago Marathon.
Yes.
Right? Now, so if you're placing a bet on this race, are you guys finishing together? Are you betting on that? Are you finished? Are you betting on Danelle maybe falling a little bit behind? Liza, where are you placing your money on this race?
I am placing my money on chasing greatness, which is chasing Liza. And my bet is Liza will finish and finish well, and Danelle will complete it.
Everyone gets a medal, Danelle. Remember that. We all cross the
I will
finish
not
line.
take the medal unless I finish. Yes, this is how mentorship works right here, right? My my bets are on Liza, and I always tell people, if you really want to win, you take people who are winning and you put them together, and what they create is greatness, and they challenge each other to do things that they didn't know they could do. And this is how you take life and work and health and faith and everything that matters, right? Finances to every human, and you put them in a room with other people who challenge them. Liza messaged me the first day. It was the last day I could back out from the training. And she was like, so I hope your app is downloaded. And tomorrow's the official day that we begin training. And I wanted to make sure you were prepared for tomorrow. Then about 3 days in, she's like, don't quit. We're 3 days in, right? And then she'll check in. And so it's those same three things that we need: community, accountability, and mentorship. And so I'd run any race with Liza any day. We challenge each other, and I hope everyone has a Liza, and every Liza has a Danelle. It's been a beautiful gift. So
that's awesome.
I did see Danelle starting too fast in her training. I'm like, whoa, you don't need to be at 9 miles yet. Just follow the process. Don't try to be a superstar yet.
I have a tendency to overpace, and then I hurt myself. And I was like, oh, you are correct. I will listen to my mentorship. Correct.
Well, Liza, Danelle, this has been a truly inspiring conversation. I wish I could say I'm inspired to go run a marathon, but I don't know. We'll work on that.
I got to work on my mentor. I have to work on my mentor here and get him out there.
I see a future marathon with the two of you all running it together as well.
She challenged me. That's a challenge.
Is that a challenge that you just put out there?
I think so. Team one, team two.
Team one, team two.
I like it. And together we can raise some money for some really great charities.
I like that.
Did I just put myself in a marathon?
I'm sorry.
Well, Liza, Danelle, thank you so much for your time. So many great lessons learned in this conversation. And I hope a lot of people hear this and take something away. Primarily, it is paramount to focus on people and develop. Thank you guys so much for joining us on the walk around.
Thank you. Appreciate your time. All right.
All you guys are doing to move lives forward too.
Absolutely.
It's so fun to run together.
Thank you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
We really appreciate you joining us today on the walk around, and we hope you enjoyed the episode. Please be sure to like, share, subscribe, and follow us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. All episodes are brought to you by the JM&A Group, and a special thanks to our team, Caitlin Swanson, James Gahn, and Michaela Gerritsen. We look forward to seeing you next time on The Walk Around.